Hello YouTube, it's the Lone Pantheist. I'm going to talk today about opposition oneness and the cost of unity. Now, what do I mean by the cost of unity? Well, unity does exist on a universal level for everything. The thing about it is we do exist in a world in which we are individualized. This is true for, well, actually everything, even the non-sentient or non-animated objects, if you will, such as rocks and planets. Everything has a difference to one another, no matter how similar they may seem. Now, that's just the natural order. Now, the cost of unity comes in the fact that we do have a universal unity, but the universal unity doesn't really mean much because we're individuals. We seek to validate our individual self. So in order to do that, we have to concentrate on differences between or within this oneness of this universe. The differences can arise in belief, physical appearance, be it race or be it phenotypical, class, religion, nationality, language, different noises that we have produced to convey different thoughts, just anything, political ideology, whatever. But we seek our individual to individualize ourselves, but at the same time we also seek that unity of community. So what do? Well, we tend to focus on what differentiates us from, say, the main population, and focus on that and find people who have that difference. And when we do, we make a community out of that. And that community essentially is opposed to a community that doesn't have that, or is just it has it, but it's like slightly different. And then you basically eventually get two different groups, and eventually that will split into several different groups. But this is what you call, I mean, binary opposition kind of goes along with this, but goes a little step further because you can have several. It's not just two opposing groups. It's several opposing groups. But the opposition part is what causes the fact that they are unified with their enemy, or with what they are opposed to, or what is their opposite. Because that opposition has to exist. There has to be something that doesn't have what's causing this group to unify in order for that group to actually unify on those grounds. Otherwise, it would just be, if everybody was like that group, there would be no need to join the group because it'd just be what is. People will be searching for something else that differentiates them. Now, this is true for fringe race groups, religious fanatics. This is true for pretty much nationalists, the extreme nationalists. Some nationalists are just proud about their culture, but even that does rely upon an opposition. It relies on the existence of other nations. So, but once your opposition, not only do you have to have an opposition that exists, but the opposition also has to be relevant. Once the opposition either does not exist or is not relevant, then that in-group becomes no longer relevant. It just becomes simply what is. What they were opposed to is now gone. Now they have to find something else that helps individualize them yet unify them, which will cause that in-group to split into multiple in-groups, which will then sort of, I guess, be opposites of each other. That's just, you kind of almost look at it like bacteria. It really is. I mean, you had the British Empire spread out. America was part of it, the United States of America. Eventually, that just stretched out, and then finally broke apart, and they became two different countries over war and ideologies and several other factors. So you can actually kind of think of that as a community as sort of an organic life form, but it's dependent upon there being an opposition. Otherwise, it will begin to split within itself. We saw this with Christianity, especially the Protestants. there's hundreds of different denominations of Christianity. It's insane. And that's because where Christianity dominated, they wiped out all of the opposition towards Christianity. So therefore, it became all about, well, what type of Christianity do you worship? Because there's this difference between us. The difference there is caused because of the individual itself, not necessarily because of the group. But eventually, if the group decides to side with this individual or that individual, you eventually get a group. You get two groups that are opposed to one another, and there's further splits, and before you know it, you have a bunch of groups. So, is complete unity possible? Well, pantheists can argue that yes, it actually already is, and there will always be a unity. There's no getting around that. Will a relevant unity be possible between, like, humanity itself, the entirety of humanity. That would probably actually have to be caused only through like meeting another species from another planet. I mean, I hate to sound sound very pessimistic about the unity of humanity, but that's what it would cost. That is the cost of unity. You have to have an opposition that exists in order for your unity to exist opposed to that. You cannot have unity just stretched out, because then you'll have individuals. If humanity was to actually unify, I mean, it really wouldn't be a unity. It'd be 7 billion individuals, which will eventually arise several different groups. It doesn't matter how much they look alike, how much they speak the same, how much they believe the same. Eventually, they're going to come up with a different idea. This guy's going to come up with a different idea. People are going to agree with that. This guy's going to come up with a different idea. People are going to agree with that. You're going to have an opposition. You're going to have these several different in groups. It's just a fact. Individuality plays a role in that fact, and there's really nothing you can do about it. But it doesn't necessarily have to escalate to war. So there can be peace, but an absolute unity, an absolute relevant unity that can be fully aware of. I don't really see that happening anytime soon. I don't. But anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. That's the opposition oneness. Now, if you get into like the spirituality side of Hinduism, that's why Hinduism actually goes toward the individual and says the individual must find a way to unify with the world, rather than trying to get your group, because the group just enforces your individuality. Well, the best phrase we'll save for the last, I suppose. But anyway, that's all.